So let's start with formal introductions.
Oh, hi. Hey, Chelsea.
We've got Jess here today, who has the Sacred Raving, doing all sorts of really cool stuff at the moment. I guess the most exciting thing coming up soon is your big trip to Thailand.
Yes. Thailand retreat.
Yes, and it's actually interesting because when leading up to meeting today, I had a look on your Instagram and your link tree, found some podcasts. I think some of them were from a few years ago. And in one of your podcasts, you were talking about what you're doing and what you've got some big ideas for the future. And I sort of listened to that podcast and then saw that since you'd released that podcast, you've been doing this big trip. So I wondered if that was one of those little thought bubbles you'd had a few years ago, which has actually now come into fruition.
Yeah, it actually was.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Because I've been doing the podcast. My Sacred Raving was birthed, it was birthed from a workshop, but then the podcast came shortly after that. So I've been doing it for a while, so I actually would love to go back and listen to some of those. I think I would have all this fresh inspiration probably. But yeah, I was in Thailand in Koh Phangan in 2023, and I visited the island. I'd been to Thailand in the past, and I'd been to Koh Phangan when I was like an 18-year-old for the full moon party, and I was so wild there. Like, I was so drunk. Like, it's just like crazy to think about like my first time on that island versus my second, and now my third coming up in a few weeks' time. And I was on this island, and I was there for a lot of spiritual growth. Like, I was living in a spiritual community there, and doing a lot of breath work and healing, and we had a lot of workshops, and in the workshops, like, they were so amazing. They were always including like breath and movement and dance and connection, but the music was like so daggy. Like, I was like, oh, I can't bear this. Like, we're connecting to the energetic bodies, and we're connecting with other people, and it was so beautiful, and I was feeling great, but I was like, oh, imagine if there was some bass in here. Like, I would feel so much more like in my power, and I would really feel the energy more and be able to move it more, because for me, bass and electronic music is really what resonates with my body and activates it and connects it. So that was one of the threads, and I was like, oh, maybe I need to be running more workshops, and then on the island, there's like a whole spiritual coast, and then there's the whole party coast, and they're very separate. They're like on these two opposite sides of the island, and it's really hard when I was there for spiritual growth, but I was missing out on all the parties because I had 7 a.m. wake ups to go to, and the program was so heavy with workshops. I didn't really have much space, and if I did go out to have a dance, then I would be missing out on some of the workshops, or like having to wake up really early and not sleeping well. And I'm like, and Sacred Raving's always been about bridging worlds before that moment. But then I was like, oh, I need to run a retreat here. Like, this is the island of the Sacred Raver. There's these two beautiful sides of the island, and there's not enough crossover. And I'm like, imagine having the dream holiday where you still do the inner work and you still do the transformation and the workshops. First of all, there's banging music in there, great playlists. I like to curate a good playlist, and before I was a DJ, I was a front row raver for many years, so like that's where my music taste comes from. And then also there's no like 7 a.m. wake ups. We start our program at 10:30 in the morning after we've had a slow morning, where maybe you want to wake up early and do the optional yoga and meditation, or maybe you just want to relax. And then we actually go out as a group to integrate on the dance floor. We go to drumming circles, ecstatic dances, and we actually finish the retreat with a sacred rave ceremony on a secret beach club cove that we can take a boat to, and we have like a ceremony where we can dance as late as people want. So it's kind of like an all-included trip where you don't have to choose between going to the parties or going to the spiritual workshops and healing workshops and things that help us grow and just become happier, healthier people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you saw that visual representation of those two worlds actually like physically being separate on the island. Like one side, I think you said one coast was the spiritual, the wellness, relaxing side, and then the other side was like the party, and then you just had this idea to bridge them together, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And so this will be the third one you're doing this year, is that right? Going and running the
retreat. It's my third time on the island.
Yeah.
It's my first ever sacred raving retreat.
Oh, it's your first one?
Yeah,
oh my gosh, are you excited?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
And it's like, really is a world first. Like, I've never seen a retreat that includes going to like dance events inside of it. Like, I'm sure there's people that bring the elements of partying, or not partying, sorry, but music and dance into it, or DJ sets into a retreat. No doubt that's been happened, but this is really part of the program because, you know, we go to retreats and we might have all this like big, we might, you know, our full expression might be unleashed, our most clear, calm, connected self. But then we go back home and it's like, zoom, we go back into our old realities. So I feel like a lot of electronic music lovers integrate on the dance floor. Mm-hmm. So we express ourselves in the retreat, and then we go to these events where there's actually people in the public around, and we get to actually be that person and be seen in our fullness now in public, integrate on the dance floor. So then by the time we're getting back home, we're really actually comfortable with being seen in these upgraded versions of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually going to ask you when you were talking about it if that was something you incorporated, because that does make a lot of sense to me, because if you're at a retreat and it's specific and you're with that group of people, that's a different environment to going out to a nightclub in the vicinity, whether that's there or here in Melbourne. And I think with so many things in life, you know, where people might, for example, they might be in rehab or something like that, and they're talking through a lot of things, they're working through a lot of things, and they feel really good, but then they come out into the real world and they've got to, I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people, when you've got a new perspective on life, but then you're going to be faced with the reality of your life outside of that environment, right? And that sounds like a similar kind of approach that you've got here, where you're actually giving people an opportunity to be in the safe community, in the sacred raver circle, but also taking the lessons that you're learning from that into real world situations, and getting an opportunity to like get a feel of what it's like to maybe rave more consciously.
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking at the time, or is that just a happy coincidence of that routine or that framework?
Definitely was what I was thinking. And also I'll have some integration calls post retreat as well, where we can actually talk about things, because things will inevitably come up after the retreat. You know, they've just come home, they're back at work, what's going on, how can they take the gems from the retreat still? So there'll be integration calls, which I'm really actually excited about. But yeah, and it's not like, I think it is about raving more consciously, and you know, but it's also, that's like the portal, that's like the gateway into what the real like juicy stuff of what sacred raving is at its core. It's like when we can be fully expressed through dance, because I feel like that's just for dance and music lovers, that's our medicine. So we use what we love so much, and then we like, because even if we might have moments of, you know, full expression on the dance floor, I will invite everyone, and me included, that we can go deeper. There's more to show, there's more vulnerability, there's more potential, and using dance. So when we're really fully expressed, embodied, and seen by others, and not intoxicated, just like pure moments, then that is like so powerful for our confidence, our fear of judgment, our inner blocks that are stopping us from actually going after what we really want from. And that could be like quitting our job and applying for our dream job. It could be starting a podcast. It could be going on a solo trip, but it could also be like the confidence to actually go and connect with that human being you're attracted to, and going after, like, it's, you don't have to be like a soulpreneur or anything like that for this to be supportive, but the gateway is intentional partying, and then the possibilities within that is just like a far more connected, fulfilling, happier life, where you actually get to be your full expression.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for some people, myself included, sometimes even just being able to dance can be a bit anxiety provoking. You feel really self-conscious about the way you're moving. Yeah, I personally sometimes struggle with that. And I think that's also why, for me, going out on my own is nerve wracking, because it seems somehow strange to be dancing in the corner on your own. And I hate that, because
Mm.
I think if that's the only way that I can go to events that I enjoy, why should I worry about having someone? Why does that make me feel more secure in what I'm doing?
Mm.
And I know that I've spoken to other people, and you can kind of tell when you look around that people feel self-conscious. They feel safer in groups, and if you've got a group of people who are intoxicated or on substances, well, then I guess that just creates more of that false sense of security.
Yes. That doesn't then integrate back into their everyday life. In fact, it probably depletes it even more because there's like this false sense of like confidence or connection or joy or pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
But then what comes up must come down, and the retreat is called expand into ecstasy. So it's like we're actually expanding who we are as a soul, as a being, or just our as a human,
Mm-hmm.
um, and feeling those states of joy, connection, pleasure, um, without these, like, whether it's ecstasy or a beer, like.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think a lot of people, because then once it goes up, it has to come down. So we then are almost feeling more empty, more unfulfilled, less, like even less joy, because it wasn't authentic. And I would like to say that for me, I mean, having like substances and like powdered substances, like they're really peak highs, and like this embodied ecstasy that I like to talk about is much more subtle, and but it's more stable,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not exactly like you would take a, something chemical, but then you don't really want it to be the same, because you don't want the come downs, you don't want the, anxiety afterwards, you don't want those like side effects, the depleted immune system. So you don't want it to be exactly the same, because the crashes are horrible. So
Mm-hmm.
embodied ecstasy is just like much more subtle and stable and consistent,
Mm-hmm.
rather than the crashes and the lows and the crashes and the highs. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes if people don't know that it can be different,
Mm.
so I suppose there has to be a shift for someone to even realize that there is another option. And that can happen at different times of people's lives. And it could also be difficult for people if they're in a group where there's habitual behaviors ingrained, because then you have to almost isolate yourself a little bit from that potentially. Have you seen that with some of the people who are coming to you to and are interested?
Mm, yeah, for sure. And like back to your point as well around like the insecurities to being able to dance, like it's really common, right? We do feel that, and this is also another common thing, is that people are not, they don't know how to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is a mirror. So I talk about the way you rave is the way you do life.
Mm-hmm.
And the essence behind that is the way you party reflects and mirrors how you show up in life. The way you move on a dance floor reflects how you move through life.
Yeah.
And so, if there was someone that is more insecure or overthinks on the dance floor about how they move, then they're probably going to overthink other decisions in their life. If there's someone that feels like they don't really want to drink tonight, but they're gonna drink because it'd be weird if they didn't,
Mm-hmm.
and they would just say yes even though their body is a no, then they're likely saying yes when their body is a no in their relationships, in sex, in when their family's asking them to do something. Like, so when we can actually learn to say no, because we know we have the self-worth and we love ourselves enough, and it's an act of self-love and self-worth that we're actually going to honor our no,
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to be able to say no and put in boundaries. And all, I actually feel like I don't emotional right now. I don't know. This doesn't like no.
Yeah, well, I was actually, when I was listening to you and listening
Ah,
to it without even before you said the word boundary, that was the first word that came up in my mind. And I think even though there's a few years age difference between us, we would technically both be millennials,
yeah.
right? And I think when I talk to a lot of people in our generation, I think this is a common thing that comes up about the strength and the courage to say no. And when we do say no, that then opens doors into well, I guess living more authentically. Because if we keep saying yes, then we're distracted by what we're saying yes to instead of, well, what happens in the space of no?
Yeah.
What happens after no? And that's when the real cool stuff happens.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so powerful, and that's like why I really say that like sacred raving is the gateway, like the partying is the gateway, because it's really hard to say no in when it's got something, when it's something so fun and so something so ingrained in you, like the rituals around dance floors and the rituals around partying and socializing is so ingrained with, you know, intoxication and things like that. So it's really hard. So when we can actually say no to something we've said yes to for like 15 years potentially, 10 years, 5 years, whatever, even if it's just a couple years for the young ones out there, when we say no to that, then you've just unlocked something, because you've proven to yourself that it's, you can say no in a really difficult situation, and it makes it so much easier when you are in those conversations and off the dance floor, and when it's at work and when it's with your partner. So it is just the gateway, but it's showing you what is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's self-reinforcing.
Yeah.
The first time's always going to be the hardest and the scariest, but once you do it and you realize that the world doesn't implode and it actually feels good, it's easier to do it the next time and the next time and the next time.
Yeah, totally. And I love that you said what's the behind after the no. That's such a good thing to bring up, because yeah, like when we close a door and we say no, we actually open up so many more possibilities. And I think it's really awesome to just think about that. And I actually find I talk a lot about balance, but balance to me is having all parts of myself expressed, because when I was partying out of balance, I wasn't actually expressing my love of travel. I wasn't expressing my love of personal growth, maybe a little bits, but not as much as I need to feel fully fulfilled. And so I wasn't moving my body as much, and I value moving my body and being out in nature and feeling healthy, and all these other values of mine were not being fully expressed because the partying was overly expressed. And now when I have a life more of balance, I find I say no so much more. And through saying no, it's like the process, yeah, of coming back to what do I really want, how am I really feeling, and it's like this act of, yeah, just tuning into me and my needs. But it's I feel like life is so busy that it's still not enough. I still need to say no more. It's still a practice. Like I'm still got to learn how to say no even more, because yeah, life is so full.
It is, and I can resonate with that. I know that I'm such a social person and I have a lot of really rich friendships, and I think I realized that as much as I love my friendships, that I was feeling the requirement or guilt when I wasn't able to connect with my friends as regularly as I wanted to, because I realized that, you know, time in a day is finite, like as in a day, right? And so, you know, if I'm wearing all these different hats, I want to be a good friend, I want to be a good mom, I want to be a good DJ, a good podcaster, a good partner. Like there's all these different camps. And when you talk about balance, you might have a day where it's heavily tilted in one direction, but having that kind of consciousness to go, okay, well, yesterday I felt like I really, really was in this camp, on wearing this hat, so to speak. So today I feel the pull that I need to be more here, or I need to actually put the guilt aside and actually just rest and not feel like I need to write back to all these messages. Like it is so hard in this day and age, and it doesn't seem to be getting any easier.
No, it isn't. Yeah.
No.
I like that as well, because balance is, I guess my views on balance is evolving, because I actually really agree with the fact of we have different sections of our lives to fulfill different things, and that is balance. So balance, especially as women with cycles and things like that, even though all humans have their natural cycles and like seasons, you know, summer we might be out and about doing more, but then we just need to make sure that we do have those other seasons in our lives to have a balance overall, as a holistic balance.
Yeah.
So yeah, some days you might have to mum hard, and then other days you need to, like, you know, music hard.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
yeah, and I think that's, you know, one thing I've noticed, and what I forgot to mention before with that, what you said before, is that you're saying no, but then you realize that you need to say no more. And that's something that I've noticed. I think back to what I used to do. And I think, how did I do that? I was just constantly go, go, go. Like I would never just sit and rest without a device or something. It would either be watching something on TV or scrolling on my phone. Whereas now I'm trying to prioritize times every day, even if it's only 15 minutes, where I'm just sitting or I'm just lying down, my eyes closed, and I realize like how tired I am. And I can't believe that before I chose to take that time to rest, that I was thinking about doing something else productive. I find that really interesting. The more it's because it's like being unconscious in some ways. So I'm just going from one thing to the next, without actually thinking about it. And that's what I'm realizing. And it is an ongoing process. Like I haven't hit some epitome of consciousness. Like it is an ongoing thing. And so it makes me wonder, what else is there to discover?
Mm. Mm.
You know?
Yeah. Well done.
Thank you. Yes.
That's big, and I feel like many people listening will be like, oh, I feel a little bit seen or a little bit like guilty in that, because like there's so often we are just like constantly consuming and like on the screens, go into this, like we're on the train and we've got 30 minutes, okay, so we're like on Instagram, we're checking this, we're doing this, like produce, or like then we need to, like, we're tired and we don't know how to regulate and rest, so then we go to our screens and we go to our Netflix and we go to the food and we go to the drugs, and we like, that's how we kind of then will regulate. But actually, I believe like the number one like thing that we can do for ourselves is what you're saying, is like just distraction free present time with ourselves, even 5 minutes a day of just being. Because this is how we actually learn to feel and be with our feelings. And like I feel like we have a bit of a crisis of people not being able to sit in discomfort.
Yeah, I was actually just going to touch on that. I think the feeling of discomfort is definitely something I've tried to avoid most of my life, and I'm actually starting to see that quite a lot of growth can come from being uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And there's like, I used to in the past, like I've always been someone that likes to like challenge myself and do things like, I don't know, like just push myself. And the comfort zone I like to push, like, oh, something's like a little bit scary, I want to do it. But there was like internal discomfort was something that I wasn't as good with sitting in. And it's
As in terms of like manifested in a physical way, or
like what I realized is that, as in like my own discomfort of like a meh feeling or a craving or those kind of things, I wasn't so good at sitting with that. So it's now like when I've now really learnt to be able to like lead myself through discomfort, which is something I'm practicing like a lot. But it's like my number one priority right now is like being the woman that leads herself through discomfort, and not looking at discomfort as being necessarily a bad thing, and more that it's just a part of me that is sending a message, and it's like calling for me to like give it some attention, some TLC, some love. And because like I've been a very busy person in the past, and so I relate to all this what you're saying, and that became like what the drugs were in the past. Like it's still running from something and not sitting with the discomfort. So now, more recently, I'm now like super passionate about like coaching myself and coaching others through discomfort, because I feel like that is like the root cause of everything. We don't know how to sit with discomfort. So emotions, we don't know how to be with them. But that's where movement medicine comes in. And we can actually move them and use music to alchemize our feelings and get okay in our body.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. I think I know for myself, those yucky feelings like the meh or the agitation that you feel, I feel myself in a race to get away from them. And then that's probably where I would use things like food or distraction, like watching something mind numbing on Netflix or whatever, rather than actually not panicking about that feeling. It is really a message at the end of the day. And if we just keep distracting ourselves, then we're missing an opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. I really relate. So it's like my biggest focus right now is just leading myself through these moments.
And when did you, so you were a raver initially, and then you moved into DJing later on after having been going to raves or dancing for a long time. So when did that, like, would you remember the thought process around how you turned from raver to DJ?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
An ex-boyfriend.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bless.
Yeah.
Shout out to you, Leo. So yeah, he was DJing, and it was in COVID times in 2020, and he had only just kind of started to learn to DJ, but he was super passionate, like always DJing, and like I guess he just like he wanted to teach me, and I was like, no.
Oh, so it was sort of more instigated by him, like, come on, like, get involved.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
He was like, come, like, I want to show you, and I was like, no, I'm not a DJ, like, I'm a dancer. Like, this was overwhelming. Like, I was nervous, and actually looking back at it, it was probably my fear of like being shit at it, or like not being good enough, and probably that's why a lot of people have blocks to DJing.
I think so. And I was just like, when you love music so much, I found when I started and I was butchering these songs that I love, I was like, oh, like this is such a shame for me because I love this music and I'm sitting here making it sound like not so good, but obviously eventually pushing through that and then getting better, that kind of reinforced the practice, etc. But I wonder, I don't know if that's something that you thought of. You were just happy being a dancer and didn't want anything else to impede on that part of Jess.
Yeah.
But in any case, it sounds like he managed to convince you.
Yeah, we climbed up. We were in London, and he lived on. Well, we both actually lived in similar places, but there's a lot of they call them council flats in London, but they're like the version of commission flats in Australia. But basically, in London, everyone lives there. All of them have been sold and like renovated, and a lot of share houses are in these flats, and you can climb up on top of the roof. I don't think you're really allowed, but we would sometimes do it.
Sounds fun.
Climb up. And so we're like, yeah, let's get like the DDJ 400 and the speakers. I think we'd been like partying all night or something like that. We climb up to the roof, and like that is actually where I learned to DJ.
That's pretty cool.
On the roof of a
sunrise sessions in London.
Exactly, it was a sunrise session. And then like I think a couple weeks later, we were at a house party and we did a back-to-back, and it was so fun. And then I actually did a DJ course because it was in 2020, and I just a month or two before launched my first like project, which was the precursor to Sacred Raving, and it was called Find Your Groove, and it was all about music, dance, and healing. It's still the same thing as today, but I evolved.
It's evolved, yeah.
Evolved, yeah. And I just was doing some posts about it, then so that was in mind. Then I learned to DJ, and then I saw a course, the algorithm popped on up, and it was like ecstatic dance DJ, a woman teaching how to be a conscious DJ and actually lead ecstatic dances and ceremonies and make the DJ set a ceremony. And I did that course with her.
That's so cool.
And that's where I actually learned a lot, and yeah, that's where it kind of all started.
So pretty soon after starting DJing, those two worlds came together, like the DJing world, and the healing world and leading conscious DJing. Is that what was the name of the course? Sorry.
It was like conscious DJing and ceremonial DJing. Yeah.
So pretty quickly that happened after you learnt.
Yeah.
So you sort of, I guess, didn't have that experience of DJing in nightclubs first, and then it was very just quickly like learn how to DJ, and wow, now I can use this skill set or this medium to bring people together.
Yeah, it was like that. When I came back to Melbourne, I did actually DJ in like clubs for
What was that like? That's because I was curious to ask you, I guess, comparing when I'm thinking about the events and you're kind of creating something very specific, an environment very specific, but I'm curious to see like your perspective on what it's like to DJ like at a local nightclub, audience wise, how you feel versus something else that's a bit more curated, like in the well-being space.
Yeah, interesting. So I would say, I my first real DJ sets in Melbourne were like at Rubik's Warehouse, and some of them were pretty quiet nights, and I was on opening slots and things like that. There were a couple or a few of those warehouse raves where it was like packed, and honestly, I actually feel like were they that different? No. Okay, so my experience of them were the crowd was still really getting around it. Like they were like going a little bit wild, which was cool. Um, and then I guess the difference is, so I've always had good experiences, I would say. And then I've DJ'd like conscious dance, like festivals, like women embodiment festivals and things like that. And they were full power, like in their lingerie, topless. Like it was a full women's festival. So that was really cool. So the difference is, what would be the difference? I think for me, it would be like my way of guiding people, because I feel like when I'm at an event that is more of a conscious event, I get to take people more on a journey. I like to take people on a journey anyway. Like in my head, there will be a journey, but in my more conscious sets, it will be a much slower intro. Yes. And then when I run my events and do my ceremonial sets, I guide them through a bit of breath work and connecting to themselves at the start, and maybe even set an intention before the set, depending on how much time and the set, and maybe even doing some movement medicine. And then when it's a set with more conscious, I can actually have the microphone and get people to do mantras throughout the set. I've had like a full club room chanting Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, like the whole club like chanting that before, which I've never seen before in a club space before. Like that was really cool. So that would be the difference, is like when they're more conscious events, I'm able to bring in these elements, and then I'll like end on like a bit of a journey as well. But my vision is to be bringing that more into club spaces.
Yeah, because it's an opportunity to, I guess, take people on a journey that, you know, that might be the bridge for them. Some experience that they have at the club, you know, which is really cool. So you're still taking those opportunities, and you still see the value in doing those, DJing in those spaces.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. And that's actually an intention of mine for the next, like, after I get back from travels, is to go to more club events and do what I do best, which is these journeys. I think when I look back on when I first came back to London and I was DJing in Melbourne, I wasn't as confident in I wasn't as refined and confident in what I really wanted to do. It was as I started, you know, learning about really what I love to do and getting more confident in creating journeys, because I'd started off with facilitating mini mixes that I would pre-record and put on my my platform, and so they'd be like mini rave rituals where we do breath work and guiding and stuff like that. But that came, you know, a year later after my first DJ sets in clubs, so I was still refining what my message is and how to deliver that. And so then it was only natural that after I pre-recorded these 15-minute ones, okay, I'm going to do this live and I'm going to make it a whole DJ set. And the beauty of running my own events is I can do whatever I want to do.
Full creative freedom.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so much proof of the concept because people fucking loved it. Like people were like, oh my God, I wish you were at Dangerous Goods doing, because it was a Psytrance set. I wish you were at Dangerous Goods last week because that would have gone off. Like, and so obviously when I do DJ in a club, it might be a little bit less, it might be, they've got less attention spans probably because it's a different environment. So I wouldn't do like a 10-minute breath work at the start, but even 1 minute of just, let's just take a breath together. Do you know how like nice that is sometimes when people are like, hey, breathe, just have one breath. Let's just like think about gratitude, and then bam, let's send it. that can just be a world of difference.
100%. I know. I was actually thinking before we started, knowing what you do, I was like, we should have done.
I was planning on doing it, and then we just suddenly started, and
I
I
know.
thought,
Should we do it now?
yeah,
Let's do it.
yeah, let's do
So
it.
what would you recommend? Should we just
Okay.
do like a...
Yeah, so I would say I like to close down my eyes, and we'll just have a few deep breaths together. Or maybe even just one. Let's have one conscious deep breath. And what we'll do is we'll breathe in deep into the belly. We'll hold it at the top, and then we'll exhale. So I'll just start. So breathing in deep into the belly. Just hold it up the top for a second and just feel. And then just melt and exhale. How do you feel after one breath?
So good.
Yeah. And I also wanted to actually say that my intention really for being here and sitting with you today is to spread my mission of raising a movement of fully expressed, conscious electronic music lovers who are so tapped into their purpose, their power and potential. So I just wanted to put that out there, that this is really my intention for this conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we briefly spoke about when you came in, because it's the first time we're seeing each other in person. We've been chatting through audio messages and things like that. That one of the aspects that I've found really interesting for myself as I've been involved in the community was this whole relationship around alcoholism. And well, not alcoholism per se, I mean that's part of it. I just mean that when I see how most bars operate from bar sales, and I've seen a lot of discussion around, you know, how DJs are paid. I don't actually know this just from my research, but I've seen different structures where people will be paid based on either a percentage of bar sales, or they will just get paid per hour irrespective of bar sales. And so I just saw this link between alcohol and electronic music for people, I guess, like me. When I started DJing, what was important to me was that I went to areas that I could play the music that I enjoyed, because it was a hobby and I wanted it to fill my cup. So I didn't want to make too many compromises, or at least that's the phase I'm in right now. And yeah, but then I started to see this link, and it's interesting for me because I do drink alcohol on occasion, but my father had like pretty significant alcoholism his whole life, and unfortunately that was pretty much the addiction that took his life. He was only 61 when he passed away. It's actually the 2-year anniversary of his death today, which I realized when I was coming here. So, and I think it's for me, like with being authentic, I guess I can't ignore that relationship, and I'm curious about different ways that people can enjoy electronic music, or how can DJs be paid from a revenue stream that is potentially not solely based on people consuming alcohol whilst being at a venue. And I know you also something that you're interested in, you've explored and you've had some experience. So I was kind of hoping you could talk to me about, well, what your thoughts around it are, and what experiences you've had around that so far.
Two things come to mind when you share that, and I will answer your question, but can I just share a quick story?
Yeah.
Because there's the link, well, it's actually two sides of the link, because there's music, the electronic music culture and clubs and alcohol is so interconnected in two ways. In the industry, from an industry point of view, with how it's funded, how events are funded, and money and business side, but then also on an individual level. And yesterday I work at a drug and alcohol rehab, and one of my clients yesterday I came into work and he was listening to Above and Beyond Circle set, and it was on YouTube, and I was like, oh my God, love this. So like came down and started watching it with him, and he's like, I believe it's possible for me to be there sober. And he's like, I believe it's possible. I'm like, yes, I believe it is possible for you as well. And I was kind of telling him a little bit, coaching him through like that, and saying like it's all about, you know, creating new rituals around partying, so that partying and listening to this music is not drinking and getting intoxicated, it's losing yourself on the dance floor. And it's just unlearning that alcohol is what we do in spaces where electronic music is playing, and relearning that actually it's a place where you get to connect with yourself, release, integrate, do breath work, manifest your dreams, all these practices that I'm really passionate about teaching in sacred raving. And so there's that individual element to it. And then there's also like the industry side of things. And it was challenging for me when I was trying to find a venue to run my events, because as a bit of a like rave snob, we'll call it, I've come from the underground and, you know, good sound systems, good production. And when I would go to some of these like more conscious dance events, I was like, oh,
lacking a little bit in that.
Yeah. Oh, like, I don't know, like it's all right. But then I don't want to be judgy, because like there's actually more and more amazing ecstatic dance DJs and things like that coming out. But I still have not really been to one, except for in Copenhagen, the one I'm going to take people to, that has really like hit the spot. So I was like, well, I really want to have an event that still has the sound systems that we love and the production that we love.
I'm seeing a link actually from your thoughts here as to what you had that time when you saw a retreat you were at, and the music was a bit, this could be better. You're sort of always constantly bringing that side of yourself into this, like whether it's the quality of the sound system or the type of music. I just saw that pattern there when you were talking about it.
It's a big why for me. It's like bringing that energy of the underground, bringing the energy of electronic music into the spaces where healing happens. And healing, not necessarily like deep, serious healing, just being authentic and being playful is healing. But so I wanted to run it in a venue, because also it costs a lot of money to put on an event when you're hiring sound systems and decks and all of that. And so I thought I'll run it at a club, but it was really hard for me to find that club. And then I ended up running it at 24 Moons, and they were really generous, and they said like, look, we can't have it on a Friday or Saturday night, because that's where we get our revenue from bar sales, but we'll happily support, because the owner at the time had just gone an alcohol-free journey. And so, because my events are alcohol-free bars, that's like a non-negotiable. I don't want to have an alcohol bar at my events. I mean, I don't really want to like change on that. And so he said on a Sunday you can do it. And so we run it on Sunday. The thing for us is the venue hires up. So it's harder for me to make actual profit on these events, because I have to pay more on venue fees.
What sort of, if you don't mind sharing, what sort of price bracket have you, even if it's not this particular venue, just over the course of running it across, like how much investment are we looking at for somebody who would want to do something like this?
Well, let's just say the event that I was going to run in I don't really think I should say their prices for 24 Moons, but the event that I was running in the summertime that actually got shut down by a council, it was an outdoor event, like, you know, 1,500 for sound system, that's me negotiating, and for mates rates. We've got like, you know, about $1,000 for venue hire, and that was a good deal. Other people have quoted me like $10,000 for venue hire, like the have the land. And then you've got like
permits in outdoor.
If you want to do, I didn't have the permits, and hence why I got shut down. If I want the permits, it's then like another at least $2,000 worth of insurance, plus the permit fees, plus all the DJ fees, plus like all the work that I put in. Getting like, do I want to get paid for all that? Maybe, I don't know. Yes, I do. And then like stage decor, like if you want to like create a cool stage, you've got to pay someone to do that.
And
like,
visuals are a big thing as well.
Lasers. So fortunately, like people have helped me out a little bit, but I'm still paying like $500. But that's like half price mates rates fee for lasers. So
we're looking at best part of 10 grand, like on a budget, with bartering and negotiating and connections with people Yeah.
Yeah. So
Which
it's a
is
lot of money.
significant. Yeah. And then are you selling the tickets then? So that's people are,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then you have to sell tickets to get the income. That's the only way to really make the pay for the costs with this. It's ticket sales.
And how are you finding that? Like, are you finding that there is enough people out there that want this kind of experience? And have you seen, or in any case, have you seen a growth over time?
Yes, definitely a growth. So I ran my first ever like Sacred Rave in 2023 in London. But then in Australia, I've been running my events for just over a year now, 14 months. And it steadily grew. And then with the Manifest event that I ended up cancelling, which is because the council got onto us, was because so many people were sharing the event, and like it got shared like on Beat Magazine. It got shared like 1,300 times, which is more than I actually looked at the stats to see like, is this just standard for Beat Magazine? And no, it's definitely not.
Okay.
So it was shared a lot, like a conscious day party in the bush, and then it sold out, and then I was getting all these people wanting to buy tickets, and I couldn't because I was sold out. And then one of the DMs was not actually a hey, can I buy a ticket? It was a hey, check your emails. And that was when the council had said that they'd been notified of the event, and I couldn't stay underground under the radar. I just thought, it's fine, 100 people will be fine. But I learned a lesson there. So yeah, ticket sales, it's definitely more and more people going interested in this event. But for example, I charged my tickets for 88 standard exchange. I had a sliding scale. If you were a low income, it was discounted, and early bird was discounted as well. I had people saying to me like, oh, it's a bit like, a bit much and stuff like that. And I'm like, I get it, but also it's actually the amount of talent that goes into that, like the like 8 lineups, eight DJs, a yoga class, a sound healing, plus literally healing and transformation. You can't put a price point on. Plus, like, you can stay the night. All of these things, like, it's really not that much money. And probably if I compared the price to what the conscious world would pay, because in the conscious spiritual communities, they're more used to paying more. But in the rave and the electronic underground scene, they're not as used to paying for things. So I like to still make it accessible.
I was going to say, is that because of the accessibility aspect, as in there shouldn't be a price barrier to raving? Is that the mentality that they have, or
yeah, they probably have that, and they're different age brackets, I think.
like younger?
Maybe, yeah. In general, maybe. It's interesting. I think because they might think, oh, $88 for just a party, but it's actually a party, but it's
more than a party.
Yeah. So, and because we don't have alcohol there, we have to like also pay for things in different ways. But it's something that I really want to challenge, because I see a lot of scarcity in our beautiful community. A lot of DJs and like artists are basically in losing money just to show their art, because they're paying for all the tracks and they want an opportunity, and there's this like kind of notion of like, you shouldn't be in it for the money, or like you should just like play for free because it's for the community and it's like just to rave. And it's like, well, actually this is their art. We should value that, and people should get paid. And especially when you're paying for travel and flying and all these things, like, I feel like there needs to be a shift, and there's a lot of scarcity in the scene. For example, that's why we're always looking outside of ourselves for joy and pleasure and connection, because we're not feeling enough inside, so we're looking outside of ourselves. That's another form of scarcity. So I'm really passionate about actually speaking to these money wounds, and actually being like, hey, we through buying a ticket and supporting, you're giving an exchange. You're actually saying like, I value this person, and they deserve to be paid, because this is real. We know how much goes into art and at the tracks and all of that, and I feel like there needs to be a bit of a shift around how a lot of people in the scene view money and charging themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And it is hard, because I think a lot of artists are happy just to be able to do their art. But I mean, for me personally, if I could manifest a future reality for myself, at the moment I'm I'm supporting myself through work that I've done in another industry, and I do love that. However, I am interested in finding a way to DJ and earn money from it, because right now where I am at, I'm still very much in the open decks phase, bridging from bedroom to open decks. Obviously, doing this podcast, it felt like the right opportunity to do that now. And the time that it takes me to run this podcast, which, as you know, somebody else who's also done podcasts, it's a bit deceiving.
Yes.
It's quite a lot of time. And so I don't actually have a whole lot of time right now to practice and invest in DJing, because I'm more focused on the podcast at the moment. But ultimately, that would be an amazing future for me if I could not just do it, but also get paid for it. Because as somebody who lives in the suburbs, I have to drive to the city or take public transport, which apparently is free at the moment. I should have taken public transport up here. But yeah, driving here, playlists, like putting my music together, because I enjoy that, right? I mean, we're music lovers. Like, we want to sit down and we want to look through our library and we want to create a playlist because we love that. And checking that our equipment is working, and then going to the venue and then driving back. So it costs a lot of money. And I'm starting to see that. And I realize it's also a privilege that I can afford to kind of run at a deficit at the moment, to give myself the opportunities to potentially grow into a space where I can get paid. So, I mean, it does make sense to me. However, I have that perspective. And I wonder if for people who don't have that perspective in other aspects of their life, where they don't actually see what happens behind the scenes, whether that's music, whether that's another art, whether it's writing, whether it's painting, like there's so many different forms of art, it's harder for them to understand that.
Yeah, it's all about priorities.
Mm.
And I feel like if they tracked on how much they would spend on alcohol or drugs in a month, I talk a lot about investing in yourself, and people find it really challenging to invest in themselves because they can't afford it. But if they looked at like how much they spent on alcohol, and that's a no. Like, for me, I remember when I looked back when I used to take like drugs. I still take some plant medicine drugs, FYI, but when I used to take powders and pills, and it was a part of my rituals, like dropping X amount on my needed, wanted, preferred drug of choice was a no-brainer. Like, it was just part of the deal. Like, I go to a festival, and I mean, let's think about everyone that goes to a festival. You put aside, some people put aside like $1,000 even on drugs. Like,
wow.
I never was into like Coke and stuff like that, so I never bought on that. But like, use at least a few $100s you on top of the festival you put aside for drugs and alcohol, probably even more. Like, and like that money now I invest in myself. And at the end of the day, money is just an energy, and you get to show what's important in your life by where you spend your money. If you choose to buy organic versus non-organic, that's you choosing what you prioritize. The same is about where you're spending it. Like, if you're spending it on alcohol, then you're probably, it's just about where you want to spend your money.
It's intentional and it's conscious.
Yeah.
It's another way, like you said, being a conscious raver is one thing, but being a conscious person is part of that. And actually seeing how your decisions and what you do, it sort of gives a picture into what you're prioritizing.
Yeah.
And you're right, I often think about like gym memberships is another one. For me, moving my body and exercising has always been a really helpful thing for my mental health. And I stopped for a little while and I got back into it. And at the start, because it was $60 a week or so to go to the gym, I was like, oh, it's so expensive. But then I was like, but that's my body. This is not just for my physical body, but my mental health. And I know, like, it's like that old saying, you never regret a workout. Like, those endorphins and things that come after a good solid workout, I can't really think of anything else that replaces that. That's just something natural. And I'm like, it's not actually that much money. I could forget to pack my lunch. Like, I actually packed a lunchbox today to come here.
So
because
did I.
did you? We could have compared lunchboxes because I made a decision. I knew what would happen. I knew that we would meet here, that I'd, we'd chat, and then I'd be hungry and I'd be driving home and I'd see McDonald's or I'd see an expensive cafe and I'd drop like $30. But if I did that 2 times a week every week, that's $60. And I want to save my money to invest in other aspects that are important to me. So I packed a lunchbox because I know I'm going to be hungry and I set myself up for success.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a sort of like other real world examples of, I think, what you're saying.
Yeah, no, and it's 100% right. Yeah, like exactly. It's real world examples. It's just saying that like putting value on yourself versus things that are, I don't know, I get it. I do get it. But if people are saying like, I can't afford it, let's look at where you're spending your money and how much of that is going into alcohol and drugs. And realistically, if you're drinking to excess and you're taking drugs every weekend, there's some parts of your soul that is maybe a little bit feeling a bit sad, a bit disconnected, maybe needs a little bit of love. And so just spend 1 month's money on alcohol and drugs, on, something to improve your life. And that very act of investing in yourself sends a message out to the universe that, hey, I believe I'm worthy of something better than this.
Yeah.
And it will reap back into you. Like, that's why I invest in mentors. It makes sense why in 4 years I've achieved so much and gotten to where I am today, because I am using my money when I'm not like some millionaire. I don't have this high salary. I have a lower salary than my sister by far. Just like comparatively, not forever because I'm manifesting wealth.
Yeah.
But I invest in myself, and hence why I've achieved so much.
Yeah, definitely. My partner works in finance, and he has always said that it's not about how much you earn, it's your spending habits. And people will just get accustomed to the money they earn and then they'll spend it. Whereas you can have somebody who earns like half as much but is more intentional about what they're doing and actually be wealthier. And that's what sort of came into my mind when you said that, because it is decisions that you make and how important it is to you. Even time. Like, I find myself doing that too, like thinking, I don't have time for that. Sometimes that is true when we go to that sort of burnout and boundary side. Sometimes you do have to make decisions. But I mean, time is also like money. What am I spending my time on? Like, what's a priority to me? That's really what I'm saying in many cases.
100%. Time, money are the two biggest blocks.
Time and money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what makes the world go round, doesn't it? I'm trying to think. So I just want to make sure before we stop that we talked about all your offerings. I know we've talked about the awesome Thailand holiday that you've got coming up. Yeah. You've also got the workshops, which are online. Like, are they hybrid? Are they a combination of online and face-to-face? Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, I do workshops at a lot of different festivals. And I also, like on Monday, for example, I'm doing a free workshop, which is an online version.
Yep.
And that will be accessible. So no matter when anyone listens to this, there'll be a link to the replay and that will be a free workshop that you can get a dose, and it's called Embodied Ecstasy.
Okay.
And so it will be a lot of the principles and codes that I live by. But I also have, this is a really great place to start. So I'm a soul coach, and there's a soul coaching method that I've turned into a course for electronic music lovers. So it's probably the only self-development course that actually, again, uses electronic music as the portal to the journey and the program. So it's designed specifically for people that like to go out and dance, that like to party, that like to go to festivals. The practices we do, boundary setting, we do how to get in touch with your emotions, how to stop overthinking, all these different parts of our health, but all the practices are somehow connected back to how we show up on the dance floor and how we party. That doesn't mean that you you can be a conscious party person and still take value of this course. It's just using your love of the party as a integration for this work that we're doing. And so that's a really good starting place. It's a 6-week journey. It's called Remix Your Life. and it's going to cover a holistic view and basically reset you, a starting point to anchor you into more of your purpose and to improve your relationship with yourself. So I have a client that actually messaged me the other day. She sent me loads of amazing updates. It's been about 3 months since she'd done the course, and she's like, oh my God, it's all just it's all just landing for me. She's like, I'm feeling so much more grateful. I'm able to regulate myself. Like, her mum is currently got serious cancer, and she's still like, so she did the course during all of this, and she's like, I'm able to regulate myself during this. She's like, I'm able to still put myself first and look after myself, even though I'm being there for my mum. She's like, I'm feeling so much gratitude this week and I'm crying even though this. And so she's like really just improving her relationship with herself a lot. And another person went from like never being able to say no to any kick-ons, drugs, anything, and with even just a few weeks, she was completely changed the way she partied. She was able to say no. She's a DJ. She's able to focus on her DJ set. She DJ'd for the first time sober. She completely just changed her whole views from just a really short course, and the price of the course is just like the price of a festival ticket.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be accessible, and it's all done like you get daily audios from me. There's movement and dance, so that's what I'd really recommend people starting with.
People who are interested to get on this journey, that's a good starting. Yeah, because even though the pre-recorded workshop would be good, obviously the 6-week course is sounds like it's pretty reasonably priced, and you're going to get more interaction out of it and more community.
Yeah, then you'll be tapped with the community of electronic music lovers on a journey. And it's a nice place to start and start living these practices, because again, it just all starts with that first investment into yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And do you find, just when you said before, you use that client who is a DJ, being in this industry, like for example, as somebody who doesn't drink a lot of alcohol, like I don't go to it as a thing, but I notice there's one place where I go for open decks and they often give us like drink cards, and I find myself a bit unconsciously just getting a Bacardi and Coke because like I can, like, but I could have just had like a Coke. And it's interesting, that's a really small example, but just thinking what you said about the person who DJ'd for the first time sober, what do you think? Do you think there's like a melting pot for DJs when we're working in these kind of environments where, I don't know if that's common, like for DJs to get drink cards, or they're just there, or do people just give the DJs drinks? Like, have you experienced any of that or seen any of that yourself? Where it's harder for DJs to kind of separate those two things?
Yes, and that's why a lot of my clients are in the industry.
Oh, they are.
Work
Interesting.
in the industry,
okay.
Because these are the people that they know that this is in their heart. This is like they want to be doing this for many years to come, and ultimately they need to do it in a more sustainable way, because the drinking a lot, partying a lot when they're at work is just not sustainable. So it is very connected, especially when you're getting drink cards. And I was the same, like I now don't drink. I just gave myself that boundary. I don't drink, but I was the same as you. I'd be like, oh, maybe I'd get a drink card, so maybe I just like have like a spiced rum and like Coke or something, ginger ale or something. And I'm like, I don't really want this, but it's, it's free. But something that I like to say is, because again, a lot of people love free drugs and free alcohol. Like, I remember back in the day, even better if you get something for free, how great. But is it really for free? Because you're paying in your hangover, you're paying in your sleepless night, you're paying in the toxins in your body. So when I was able to shift that and be like, it's actually not free because I'm paying in all these other ways, is it really worth it? Probably not. So that comes up. But yeah, I feel like the DJing part. What was your question again?
That was just about, interesting. You kind of confirmed it when you said that a lot of your clients are actually in the industry, and that isn't uncommon, because I had sort of had that experience and wondered whether it's particularly hard because like the working environment, not just the audience, they're buying drinks because they want to be there, but also for DJs, it's hard. And then also the networking, when you said about kick-ons, if you want to network and build relationships with people, but what if the people that you want to network with from a professional point of view, if they're going to kick-ons, are you then feeling the pressure to network in those environments? Yeah, so it's multifaceted.
Yeah, staying at the party after the set is, you feel a lot of pressure. People feel pressure because they want to make sure that they get booked again, or they need to go out to get gigs. And I know that's really hard, because I'll just say from my point of view, I don't necessarily need someone to come to my event to book them. However, I like to book people that I've actually experienced their sound in some way and I felt something. I don't want to just book anyone, but you can support an event by other ways, because I get that I don't always want to go out and I still maybe want to play at an event. So just like sharing a reel on social media, engaging in the comments, sending a message of like support, well, you know, a message of support's nice, but actually like helping spread the word and showing that you believe in the event. Because I only want to book DJs that believe in my event. I don't want to book DJs just because they want more gigs. I'm quite like strong about that, because this is more than just an event. This is a movement. This is like, and that's why Sacred Raving as a community, it brings together DJs and artists and ravers and facilitators who love the music, but they don't want to be in these unconscious spaces anymore. They don't want to have to feel pressure to drink. They want to be able to network in other ways. So like, you know, come to a workshop and meet different artists and network in other ways. And so that's really the movement. It's a movement of conscious electronic music lovers versus just one event. And I want people in this movement to really be passionate about music and dance, and to be passionate about being more conscious, not being perfect.
No, because that consciousness and perfectionism don't actually sit together at all.
No, they don't. Yeah, it's not about being sober either. Like it's just being like aware and like kind of, I guess, reflecting on things. I like to it's about being just like honest and authentic and having intention. Yeah, but it's not about being perfect at all.
Yeah,
I want to make that clear.
Yeah, it's easy for the perfectionism to come out when we talk about things like that, because you can identify. One thing I've noticed is I can identify something that I want to change, but then the actual behaviors around that and the environments I put myself in, it's harder than it actually sounds. And so it's like a step. So it's a step to being like identifying that you want to do something different, but then how do you help yourself make those decisions? And so if, for example, somebody had the idea that they want to be a more conscious participant in dance music, they might then put pressure on themselves, like, what does that look like? You know, they might go, that looks like being sober. That looks like, you know, not taking any substances, or whatever it might look like. But then if you put that pressure on yourself about what that already looks like, you're already setting yourself up for failure, because that's what it's about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in like a bad way either. I just mean like it's a normal human process that you just work through. Like that, and that's also okay.
Yeah.
But it's not a pressurized system.
Not at all. And like I like to say that with sacred ravers, if you are a sacred raver, if on the weekend you you got yourself, not even accidentally, you got yourself in a K-hole and you got fully fucked, and then like the next day you journaled about it and you said, okay, or you messaged me and you said, I was really not great last. I even had someone recently message me in this kind of situation, got too catted and did things they were not proud of. They messaged me. And
they were reflecting.
Yeah. And I was like, bro, this is so good. Like, well done for having the courage and being vulnerable to say, I did something that didn't feel aligned. I don't know how to change it. I don't know. He didn't say I'm going to stop K. He didn't, but we started a conversation, and that's bringing it into consciousness.
Yes.
It's like, rather than avoiding, I don't like denying that there's something going on in their life that is maybe not serving them. It's just like honoring it and bringing it into the light.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, well, how are we going for time? 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Oh,
Do you
cool.
need to go at a certain time?
Well, I will need to go
Because
at a certain time. Yeah.
it's 12 now,
Yeah.
so we should probably get
Probably
out of the
wrap,
studio,
yeah.
but I'll edit this part out. But I guess as a departing sort of thing, anything that you want to, that we can broadcast on the Area 3000 that you've got coming up? Obviously, I don't know if you've got your spaces filled for the Thailand trip. Is there still
There's
opportunities?
still some spaces, so
Yep.
do get in touch if there's anyone that would like, even if this retreat this time is not the right time, get in touch, because like we're going to be running many more of these. And so if anything resonated in any of this conversation, I would love to know, because I wouldn't know. And send me a message, tell me what they enjoyed, what activated in them, like really start a conversation. I love connecting with people. I'm focusing on my Thailand trip at the moment and the retreats. I'm going to be away in Asia for a few months, and then my plan is to actually travel down the East Coast over like springtime and run some events in some other states. Awesome. So that's one thing. But also just get involved in the online space. There's a little bit of there's some things coming, but I'm not going to talk too much about them yet. They're still very much in the germination phases within, but this is going to keep growing. And if anyone wants to like open a conversation around whether they would like to work together, I'm also I love working with people, and like I'm happy to just voice note, like I don't know, no expectations, like you know, I just love people having these conversations. And then if it feels right that I could support them, then we could work together, but there's no pressure on my end.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's also good. Thinking about what you said before about that person that was it the moon place that you said? Where
24 moons.
Yeah, like aside even just from DJs, like people who are listening that you know, like working together, there's lots of different elements, right? There's DJs, there's people who rent equipment, there's people who have venues, and at the end of the day, we're all people and we all have our own experiences and values. And so if anyone's listening to this and has like a venue, for example, that, you know, they would be really cut filling for them to be able to host or make an arrangement or a budget arrangement, maybe on a quiet night, to have these sort of events. You know, those sort of people also are really important, because they help provide a platform for these kind of events where we can have conscious parties that aren't around, or they're alcohol free, let's say, for example. So I think that would be really cool. Would you be interested to hear?
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely would be interested to hear on any venue suggestions. I'll be running my Manifest event again.
Is that the one that the council?
Yeah.
Is anyone, which council was it? Anyone in that council listening? If Jess Miller's permit comes across your desk.
Yeah, please approve it. But I'm actually wanting to connect and collaborate more on the event. So if there is anyone that wants to help make a sacred day party happen in the bush, please reach out. Like, and from anything from looking after volunteers or being a volunteer to lasers, lighting up, whatever. I want to turn that into more of a co-creation, because it's too much to take on just on my own. And I really love working with creatives and artists and facilitators, because what like I said, this is all the portal. Like, our community is music and dance lovers, but if you are an artist or a creative that's like, you know, experiencing imposter syndrome or self-doubt or any of these kind of blocks that are really stopping someone from like actually applying for that workshop or, you know, DJing at that event, then also come into our community, because it's nice to be around people that can expand you. So I really invite anyone that has dreams to come into the community and be expanded by the people in there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. And I think lastly, I follow you on Instagram. That's how I found everything. So is that the best place for people to orient to find pretty much everything that you're doing, which is quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sacred Raving on Instagram, so at Sacred Raving.
Yeah.
Then I do have my personal account, which is like my DJ account as well, Galactic Rainbow.
Yep.
And then there's Ritual, the Sacred Rave. But Sacred Raving is the main account. And if you like to read emails, I tend to I'm quite vulnerable and I like to express myself through words. And so I do have an email list that I send out little updates and emails to as well.
Very cool, very cool. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming, Jess.
Thank you,
I really
Chelsea.
appreciate it. It's been so good to finally meet you in person, and I feel like we only just scratched the surface a lot, so it'd be interesting to touch base with you maybe later on in the year and see what's going on, because it sounds like you said you've got a few things that not ready for announcement but are in the works, so it'd be interesting to touch base and see how those things are going and how Thailand went.
I'd love to.
Yep, awesome. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks, Chelsea.
We did it.
Yay. Cool.
Oh,